We'll now go right into our next speaker. If you guys would like that. Would you like that? How you feeling, Lynn? You ready for the people? Yes. You're always ready for the people. Lynn Book is our next speaker. She has a vibrant stream of transmedia arts practice that cuts across boundaries between performance art, theater, visual art, language, dance, and new music forms. She currently lives in North Carolina, where she develops progressive creativity and arts curriculum at Wake Forest University. Everyone, please welcome Lynn Book.
Claire. Claire, can we have the first CD? This is for everyone. Thanks. It feels really good to just open up and sing, and I'm sure everyone does that every now and again, at least in the shower, perhaps in the car, under the bed, underneath a waterfall, inside your deepest dream. And it's really one of the most healing things we can do. I think somehow we all know that. And don't ever let anyone say that you can't sing. Now, I am an artist. You might have noticed something about that, or maybe you, even if you had a question about what kind of artistry, this is weird. I don't hear anyone singing like this before. Some kind of weird sort of Tuvan throat singing mixed with Appalachian, old-timey, made up stuff on the spot, but that's in fact the kind of space I love to occupy as an artist. It's that in-between space that's neither this nor completely that, for sure. Usually a large swath of this, that, and the other all mixed up together. So that mixed up space is the space that I occupy as a transmedia artist, which for me gets me into the creative act on a continual basis. In fact, with every breath. So I would love for all of us to do a little breath space now. So this is what I do with my students. And they said, Professor Book, are you going to breathe today when you do the TEDx thing? I said, sure, why not? So breathing, of course, is very simple. We do it all the time. We just don't pay attention to that. And there have been several kind of nudges and entreaties from many of the other wonderful speakers today having to do with noticing that which is either forgotten, that which is taken for granted for, that which we make assumptions about, that which we allow science to quantify without actually sort of really feeling it and embracing it and actually activating our creative potential. So, nice big in-breath, everyone. Through the nose, drink it in. Come on, come on, come on. It's delicious. Exhale through the mouth. Like a sigh. And in fact, you can sigh in public like this all together. Okay, so nice big in-breath. And an exhale sigh. Feels good, huh? You can actually raise your shoulders up, let them kind of touch your ears a little bit on that in-breath, and then let the shoulders just drop with that luxurious, delicious, new body-producing sigh. Here we go, in-breath. Ears, 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 and sigh. Nice. Let's give it up once more. And in-breath, up to the healing ceiling and the sky, sighing. Beautiful. See, that's all I teach here at Wake Forest University. And we can teach this and play with this and work with this, of course, all semester long because, of course, the yogis and all kinds of extended body-mind practitioners have been working with the breath, with the body and the breath, with the emergent body, with emergent bodies, with spirit and body and so forth for many, many, many thousands of years. And so it's a really, really cool teacher to sort of dip into that, but do it in a way that sort of contemporizes it and also contextualizes it. And that's really what I do here, and that's teaching creativity. So I use the sort of breath space as a way to get into creative bodies. Pick that back up again. Good. So again, back to my creative work as an artist, because that's integrally involved with how I teach. As an interdisciplinary transmedia artist, I actually learn how to teach through the artwork that I make. So this is a very encompassing piece which has lots of emergent aspects to it, because it is a site-specific, community-based, performative sound community installation art piece, which happened in, of all places, Putui, Slovenia. Let's see, let's go this way. Yeah. So this is a project called Song Spot, and I actually just produced a song right on the spot here. You might have noticed. You actually were singing with your sighing. And so the Song Spot idea was a matter of trying to find ways to communicate with people who I couldn't necessarily understand. I didn't know Slovenian before the language, before I moved there. I did learn many, many folk songs, though, and that was a great thing, because what I did create an exchange system with the people of this little medieval town called Petui in Slovenia over the course of 2 weeks, and I invited people to trade with me. And we traded both ways. So I would sing them a song if they would give me a spot. And the spot was coming from clothes that they were wearing, clothes that were donated to me by the 97-year-old tailor down the street, and spots that would be attached in different places around the city, including this bicycle, which I rode around the city to find external song spots, different sites to sing. It's like singing in a space, whether it's inside, outside, whether it's privately, whether it's publicly, is a really phenomenal act of human life. You might have noticed that too. And so the song spot, as I said, went the other way. So if people wanted to, they could also sing a song to me, in which case I would have to give up a spot on my garments. And in fact, that's what happened here. So over the course of the 2 weeks, I would go around the city, find acoustically resonant spaces in little architectural sort of coves and nooks in this little medieval town space. And I would also just go out to the fields and to the hilltops and sing early in the morning, late at night, and so on. And I would bring these songs and stage these sort of performative actions of exchange in this place. Now, these people couldn't understand a thing I was saying, so I did have some translators. So this is one of the song spots at the castle. And this man was really quite remarkable. He came on the last day understanding this system at this point quite fully where he wore this special shirt in order to allow me to cut a spot from it while singing him a song. And I still have this at home. He returned last summer. I went back again with a different project and brought me a photograph of the town. So sometimes the songs would arise spontaneously, rather like what I did here, although that is actually coming from a performance piece I'm developing now. And then the children would be a little bit shocked, but then of course children love to sing too, and so on. So then we'd bring the documentation inside and go back out, and everyone that's coming into the space would also become emissaries, singing emissaries who would go back out into the world, find their own spots to activate, to become one with, to challenge, actually, and open up if it was a kind of a tight, close, dark, silent space. So this is one of their political heroes, Jose Lashko, and this wonderful person, a media journalist, was taking me around with her spot. You see, we put a spot on Jose's sculpture there, and she told me the stories walking through the town, and he was a wonderful song spot exchange artist with me. And like that. So just a little brief entry to let you see, in fact, how the kinds of interactive ways, the kinds of emergent ways, the kind of somewhat unpredictable, but definitely structured ways by which I go about making the art. That kind of practice comes into the classroom. So there it is, right? Do we believe that? So creativity is generative, and that's the way I teach it. And creativity is at the root of all things that we do. It's why we live, right? Our bodies live because they want to keep creating life. So by creating life, by any means possible, we and all living organisms live. And some might argue objects that might be categorized as non-living objects or environments would also become imbued with a sense of life, with a sense of wanting to hang on, to stay, to extend somehow, and to express what it means to live, which means really what it means to be creative. So I teach from a book sometimes by a writer called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who wrote the book on creativity, as it were. He was a social psychologist from University of Chicago way back when, and became very interested in this idea of creativity and the actual human behavior. What's the work in it? What does it look like when an interior designer employs it? What does it look like when a social scientist uses it? What does it look like when an experimental filmmaker from Canada works his films out? So Csikszentmihalyi, and actually many others, including Keith Sawyer, who's written a book called Explaining Creativity in Our Scientific Revolution Mode. Everyone needs science to explain. Both Sawyer and Csikszentmihalyi say that in our lives, when we are most alive, this is when we are most creative. Or it could go the other way around. When I am most creative, which means when I am most dynamically connected with both myself, who I am intrinsically, with the world, this external thing that I'm in a constant threshold, interactive, dynamic transformation with, when that creativity is at its peak, that is when I am most alive. And that can include, in fact, the kinds of things Chris was just talking about. When I am nose to nose with death, when I can smell death in my own body, or when I see it in the people or the things around me, this is when we most want to live. And this is when, out of that kind of urgency and that kind of critical tipping point, that in fact we must be the most creative in order to answer, respond, and sometimes, if we're lucky, solve, at least at the micro level, this thing that wants to die out, looks like it's going, but we save it back. So maybe we need a little bit more singing to go with these slides. You can do it with me. I call it breath jazz. Get something else, or this or that. Don't be fooled, though, it also destroys. This is why we need critical creativity. To breathe new life into this emergent study in higher education. You see, teaching creativity in higher education means that we are futuring the life of education today in a 21st century complex global environment. We know from the emergent behaviors that Paul was talking about that life futures itself in many ways, right? Life is a thing that just wants to keep going and going and going and go, and sometimes it gets hung up, and then we have to release it again and start back again. The iteration process. A lot of designers talk about it. A lot of designers. The iteration. A lot of designers talk about this. Oh yeah. And this makes our bodies, our whole person feeling, knowing, thinking, challenging, provocateur selves to do what they do best. And not just best, forget best practices. Let's talk about joyfully. And so this is an economics major, my friends. Okay, social science, poli-sci, bio majors. Okay, look, they're inventing the next MIT thing. We're not at MIT. This is in a funky rehearsal room in the theater department. And look, they're making gloves that touch. They're working with haptic technology, and they don't even know what to call it. But they know it's really neat, and they know it's really important in many ways. So I get the students in their bodies, and the students get their bodies into the ocean, or at least the little pond. This is the waterfall on the way to Renolda Village. Don't tell anyone. And he was an entrepreneurship and social enterprise minor. Thank you.
Free hugs.
Oh, yeah, right
After.
now.
So I got a question.
sign, yes.
I got a question, Sugar. You were talking about creativity.
Yes.
So we're in the social impact block right now.
Oui.
And I find that it's really difficult sometimes to be creative. Like when I used to act, I found like you can work on something for 6 hours and have nothing. Or you can work on it for 2 minutes and you have a great scene.
Yes.
How do you get yourself to that place of being able to create?
That guy was talking about something up there on the video before you got up there, 30 days, ride your bike, okay, kind of a self-improvement concept. I teach what I call a transformative practice, right? Actually, the students teach themselves. So it's a way of embedding creative curiosity into their everyday lives, into the minutia of the thing. So it's not about the product. It's not about that entertainment thing. I was thinking earlier, what can the T stand for besides technology? Tenderness, touch point, Tallulah, Tanzania, right? So 2 plus 2 equals people. So, I think, did I answer that well?
Yes.
So it's in the breath. It's in the breath.
Thanks very much, Lynn.